This is our Robert Ray pushing a SUV through flooded water. Yes, he was, giving us the story of what was happening overnight, saw this woman run into the high water. She had no idea how much water was under this underpass, and her name's Stephanie. He tried to move the vehicle to get her into a safer spot because, again, there was so much water that the SUV was literally floating, but they quickly realized that they just had to ditch the vehicle. So this is Robert pulling Stephanie out of her passenger window. She was able to grab her backpack. She was actually on the way to pick up her daughter. So just, heroic actions there. I'm glad that Robert happened to be there right when Stephanie got into the situation.
Down there in Dallas, streets are flooded. People are getting rescued out of cars. You saw that dramatic footage there from just a reporter from Fox Weather rescuing a woman out of her car. She was on her way, as you saw, to get her daughter. So disaster is going on. Let's read more about the details here, because thunderstorms hit the Dallas-Fort Worth area on Sunday night and into Monday, dropped massive amounts of rain in the span of 18 hours. It inundated streets, flooded homes, forced some drivers to abandon their vehicles in high water. We see that every time these floods happen. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins has declared a state of disaster in the region based on preliminary damage assessments, allowing the area to be used to use available state resources to respond. He's also requested federal assistance. So a lot of what contributed to this whole thing, as I mentioned to you guys before we jumped into this, were the droughts. Weird, how does droughts lead to flooding? It's probably the most simplest process, but for some reason I didn't pick up on this. So here's the info on that. Thunderstorms are expected to continue into this week. It's a striking contrast from just a few days ago, when much of the state had gone weeks without precipitation. Much of the state has been in an extreme drought for months. WFAA reported that the houses are taking on water in Balch Springs, a suburban city in the Dallas area, where a grass fire destroyed 9 homes just last month. So we had a grass fire, which of course would denote this drought, and the ground has issues from that. So there was more from the infrastructure as well in Dallas. Floods were submerging vehicles and forcing people out. Let's watch more of the disaster that happened there. I'm not trying to show how old I am, Pascal, but I remember the floods in '93 in St. Louis. It was about a good 2 blocks from our house. I saw it looked like beachfront, except it was the Mississippi overrun and flooding everywhere. So we had just missed out on this. There's also, we can run this as whenever you guys want, as well as B-roll. There was stuff that got up to people's houses and their livelihoods. So we've seen stuff like this. I'm not sure how close you've experienced it, I assume so, but it's scary and there's reasons behind it.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is just absolutely wild. I mean, in St. Louis, we've had a lot of flooding recently over the past month, over the past couple of weeks. So this is not a rare thing here in St. Louis, but in other places like Las Vegas and other places like that don't usually get this kind of precipitation. It is surprising, right? But one thing I wanted to say about the reporter pulling out that person out of the car, I wish we saw more things like that. It's nice to see somebody doing something good, risking themselves to save another person's life. It's not something you see very often nowadays. But and I commend that person, for going out of their way to do whatever they could to save that person's life.
And maybe because we see this stuff so much, people don't realize, you said it's not rare, but that's a dangerous situation. The car was floating. It wasn't on the ground and it's just like up to its wheels. It was floating, so you don't know what move it's gonna make next, which kind of current it's gonna push into you, and while you're trying to snatch someone out of the car. It's a dangerous situation to be involved in. So yeah, heroic as well. So as people were talking about climate, us libs will be talking about climate change and the reasons behind this and how our actual environment is affected by both of these. This is what surprised me. This is what I didn't know how it always worked. Because you think we need some rain, especially Los Angeles. We need some rain. Sometimes the rain causes things like this. So scientists have also found that significant flooding and extreme rain events are more frequently following droughts than they have in the past. It's according to the 4th National Climate Assessment. Both the frequency and intensity of heavy precipitation are expected to continue increasing across the southern Great Plains, which includes Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So the ground is really dry. And then after it's really dry, it was like we saw from those wildfires and things that happened, it doesn't really take anything in. So when it does rain, the water sits on top of it for much longer, especially when you get extreme amounts of rain. That's when sometimes this flooding happens, which happened in Dallas. There was an experiment that was run by this about heavy rainfall. And this experiment shows exactly how water may enter the ground when it's nice and wet versus when it's not. Is there sound on this to you guys? No, so if you see this on the left, how quickly that water will then absorb into the ground. Normal summer, just slowly, but when it's a serious heat wave and the ground is that dry and barren, it just doesn't really go anywhere, or very, very slowly. So imagine constant rainfall on a dry ground like that. Apparently, according to scientists, that's what's happened here down in Dallas. Craziness. Hopefully things can get a little bit better.